was so enamored. I was really scared. I was, thinking, oh no, he's not gonna like it. There were times when he didn't like things, and you would just hear that something's not working here, and he would show you where and everything. He was
Evidence of a great teacher.
yeah. Gee, I had some things written down about him now. I don't know what they are. Oh, in his critiques, he would say, I digress. He would go into these long talking about how this and that had happened and thinking about, and then he'd talk about artists, different artists that he was influenced by and what he thought about them. And he'd tell stories about them. And, it was like stream of consciousness, kind of, the way he talked. And you think, well, I'm not getting anything out of this. And that just really wasn't true. You would realize later how much you gleaned. It was just, so anyway, he was an influence, a great influence. He liked Richard Diebenkorn a whole lot, and so do I. Diebenkorn does huge abstract paintings that are actually like streetscapes. They look like streets, but to me, they look, all I see is the abstractness of them and the beautiful shapes and colors. That's just, to me, that's what his work is all about. And they just radiate together, the colors. And so, that was really, going to ESU was an amazing experience.
Yay, wonderful. Thank you, Charlotte.
All right. I don't know if we have any questions, Amy?
There's not any more questions for her. We can always, if people have,
Come back.
yeah, if people have questions for Charlotte, we can ask her later. So, did you want to introduce next?
I can certainly do that. Now that we're a little more comfortable doing all this, I just want
Yes.
to say Charlotte has a special place in my heart because I'm an imported girl. So.
And she brings us food.
And she brings us food and sometimes chocolate. And sometimes chocolate.
Chocolate counts, yeah.
Baby. Baby was a little disappointed to do this last time. She loves you anyway. She loves you next time. Next time. Okay. All right. All right. So we're going to move on to two people that honestly I'm so blessed to know and have had the opportunity to meet. Being here at, what is now SNW Gallery and Custom Frames, and that is Larry Peters and Barbara Waterman Peters, and I don't know how you two are gonna...
Larry's gonna go.
Larry's gonna start.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
Welcome,
Larry.
Larry.
I guess today we decided we're not going to do a dog and pony show together. We've done that. So,
All right, all good.
okay. I work in a couple of different major medias. One is clay, and the other is mixed media, collage, and paint. And they're both quite different on the general aspects of the media that I use. In clay, which is shown here with the 6 pieces against the wall here, everything that I do in clay, for the most part, is coming out of a vessel form. And generally, over the last couple of years, I've been working in covered jars that are probably at least twice the height of this one black piece here. And I have not been using glaze on the exterior. I've been only using underglaze, iron oxide, various other oxides on the surface mixed with water. And I apply them with a brush, and they're usually applied in 3 thin coats so they build up evenly without peeling off during the firing process or drying process. This one has just, it's a cylinder that's been altered with finger punches into the soft clay some slabs that have been added on and altered, also bent, and finger slashes on them. And the necks have been either thrown or made out of slabs and attached. Excuse me. These have actually no function other than to be a work of art. I have and started out as a potter doing some work that would be a little bit more like utilitarian functional tableware. Some plates, small covered jars.
Should I move closer to him?
Yes.
Yeah.
The mic's not the best.
Okay, we'll
Is
just,
that better?
I think that'll be a little bit better, yeah.
Okay.
we'll just,
We're still having sound issues, so.
Okay. And those were all glazed. Anything that's been designed to be used with a table service had to have a nice smooth glaze because you don't want food particles being trapped in there. They have to be able to wash and kept clean for the next usage. The works here are all stoneware. I actually was going to pick this up, but she's got it stuck down with a material, so I'm not going to go
it's
that
actually
way.
not, you can get it off there, it's just
No,
that latex.
that's all right.
Okay.
First, I applied a white underglaze all the way from top to bottom. Then I've worked with rutile and water, red iron oxide mixed with water, and I use a mouth spray device to get the splattering, and then with a brush, either flicking or actually brush work using the black underglaze decoration material. These are all put on in a greenware after the work is partly dried, and then it goes through a bisque firing. After the bisque fire, you look and see if you want to make any changes, and you can still do that at that low temperature. Then it goes to the second firing, which goes up to roughly 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. After that, the only way you can get that off is to take a grinder and grind through it. So it's done at that stage. And the same thing with these. After any of these types of works are bisque fired, I will go back and do some changes where maybe something got brushed off when it was being loaded into the kiln for firing, and it hit another pot or a shelf or something, and that does occur. So you go back and touch up with a brush or this little spray device, either one. As for inspiration in my work, first was my instructor at Washington University in ceramics, Jack Wright. I did some works that, had some resemblance to his, but not that much. In graduate school, my graduate instructor, Nicholas Vergette, I started doing works that were more sculptural. He didn't do typical functional work. His work was all sculptural and sometimes quite large. And that got me going in another direction. So at times, okay, I've been working sculptural. I need to do something that is actually could store something, some food, or could be used on a table to serve fruit on, or cheese and crackers, and that sort of thing. So I'll do a few of those pieces, then I'll get back into my sculptural work. The pieces I've been doing over the last couple of last couple of years are probably anywhere around 24 to 27 inches tall. Those I throw in two sections because I have a short arm. I can't reach down to the bottom with something like that. And so I throw them in two pieces and then I attach them when they're in a leather hard stage. And you learn by mistakes. The tallest piece I ever had probably was going to be, it was about that tall. Just the clay part. I had just warned an undergraduate student about when you get up from your wheel and you're not through with the work, switch the wheel off so you don't step on the pedal.
Oh no!
What did I do?
Oh.
The piece wound up being about the same length, but about this thick because it was flat on the floor. I stepped on the pedal accidentally. The wheel spun excessively fast and just threw the whole thing right onto the floor.
Oh.
And I said, see what I mean? Something to that effect.
So,
Yes.
is that centripetal force or centrifugal force?
That's real centrifugal
That's
force.
right. I don't know. My physics teacher said say it really fast and nobody will know the difference.
So that was a do as I say, not do as I do. Yeah. I have done a few pieces and currently have some in the process that are transferring from functional container-based products to what I do two-dimensionally and mixed media. And they relate to the Holocaust series that I've been doing for a couple of years. I've done about 6 platters or chargers that are anywhere from that big around to about that big around, but only about that tall.
Okay.
And they're thick. I wanted them thick for what I was going to be doing to them in alteration sometimes. The problem is I've got to solve is I need another clay body, I think, to work with that does not crack easily.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah, I have 2 that have cracks that are big curves in them, across almost not quite the middle, below the middle. And so what I tend to do with those is I'll go and gouge them and make them a little bigger, add something else, and have to go back and touch them up because I know they're going to open up more when they're gone through the main last high fire. It doesn't bother me that much because they're not going to be functional. They're not going to be tableware. They're not going to have food stacked up on it. And mostly they're going to be made to hang on a wall.
Right.
And those take about 23, 25 pounds of clay at one
Oh
time.
my.
And
What does that dry out to?
pardon?
How much? What does that dry out to? What is the?
Oh, it loses a lot of water.
I was going to say it loses a lot of water
Yes.
weight.
You're going to, they might be 10 or 12 pounds or something
Okay.
like that once they're finished.
Sure.
And they're coming out of references that go back to Peter Volkus
Yeah.
and a person that did firing for him for 20 years, wood firings in an anagama kiln, Peter Callis. And
For those of us who don't know what kind of kiln you just said, would you explain that?
Alabama, okay. The one I've been experienced with has been over at University of Kansas that I've done some firings in with people over there. And they go from here to that wall, which
Oh
is
my.
maybe
That is actually about 20 feet.
well, roughly 20 feet, 25 feet.
Wow.
I could stand up, I think, in the firebox
Okay.
where the main wood goes in to fire it.
Yeah, we don't want you to do that though, Larry.
Well, I didn't stay.
Okay.
That's quite interesting. They fired for 3 days. That means you have to be there. Somebody has to be there that knows what to do and to direct all the other
Right.
people.
Right.
You have to be there, 7 hours. I mean, trying to think. Some people fire 7 days, 24 hours a day.
Wow.
So you have to line up a large crew.
Sure.
There
Sure.
probably aren't that many people doing that right now
That know what they're doing.
due to the COVID.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
True.
You'll have somebody there that's splitting wood with a wood splitter. That's what my job was. Somebody else carries the wood up, stacked by the kiln. People are putting wood into the front of it. And then later on in the firing, there's stoke holes along the sides. People are putting wood into there.
Sounds like quite a contraption.
I was going to say, I'm wondering what the special job is I don't know. When you started off saying he was chopping the wood, I thought, oh, that's not the best job, but yeah, a week to cool.
I helped a friend of mine build a wood fire kiln at Topeka, and it was much smaller. It was a catenary arch kiln with the bottom only about that wide. We fired that in 12 hours.
Okay.
You're not getting any wood ash glaze built up from that short a period of time. You have to put the ash glaze on, or any other glazes on, and fire. We fired up to cone 10 and 12.
Which is how
That's
many
close to
degrees?
2400
I was going to say, I knew
degrees.
that's a lot of degrees,
Right.
but I'm not,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And you don't do it in weather like this we have today in Kansas.
No.
The best is in winter when it's not bitter cold, but just cold. Because if you get a little chilled, you can get up close to the kiln and warm up.
Yeah.
But weather like this, you want to be as far away as possible. Now, yes, question.
Would you talk about some of the cultural influences on your work?
Oh, okay, yes. Spread out quite a ways on cultural influences from all the way to the beginnings, Chinese and Japanese work. Some influences come from Northwest to North and Plains Indian tribes. Those particularly are the cover jars that have the crow raven sort of like image on them.
Is it a crow or is it a raven?
It's a mix.
It's a mix.
It's a
Okay,
mix.
it's
Yeah.
okay.
It's
It's a
not-
hybrid.
It's a hybrid.
Okay.
And I haven't done any of those for a little while. These are some of the last works that have been completed. And these pieces, the brownish ones, were done in 19. Those were done in 2000. Works are sitting out at Washburn that finally got this fired the last month ago, roughly.
Oh my.
But, you know, the shop was just closed down.
Yeah.
So
2000 or 2020?
20.
20, okay.
So the shop
We're all
was-
losing track of time.
And those will get completed, hopefully, this fall.
Hopefully.
Washburn is stating that they're looking at, I think, right now going on face-to-face rather than online. They may have an option on some things.
Right.
Things like ceramics, there's
There's
only so much you
no
can
option.
get theory, and it's not out of books. You gotta be hands-on.
I think one of the things that and I should have known this because my mother was a hobby ceramicist. She had a wheel, and I've got some pieces of hers, which I'm very fond of. And it's one of the few art forms where you make it, and then you put it away, and you have no idea if it's going to make it out of there.
Yeah.
So it could explode.
The more
or-
experience you have.
Well, true. The more
and
experience you
you're
have,
not
but
relying on somebody else.
I know,
You're
but
better
still,
off. Yeah.
still.
Right. And Barbara says, how can you live with that? Not knowing. Well, it's just what comes.
It's what kind of, it's like a piece of marble that you start carving into it, and it may have a vein that you didn't know about.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. So,
that's what I was talking about with the cracks coming through that, and I need to come up with a better clay body, one that's a little more porous, has more
Okay.
grog, which is ground up fine particles of fire clay and so forth in it,
okay,
so that they survive.
sure. It's very technical. It's very technical.
And somebody that people here may know of, Ken Ferguson, who taught at Kansas City Art Institute for decades. If you were ever at his studio at home, surrounding part of the studio is a trash pile. of unsuccessful pieces.
Didn't we see that
Carol Long.
at Carol Long's? Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
That happens.
they're so pretty.
Oh, they're so pretty, but they're broken.
I have pieces at home that are out in the yard
Huh? Yard art. There you go.
that have cracks,
It's not. It's
sections
repurposed.
blown out.
It's repurposed.
So then I have some pieces out there that are in good shape, but they were pieces that were tall and about this tall, and they're put together a PC7. And I didn't know how PC7 handled over a winter and summer and winter and summer, so they were put out there just as a test. They've been there for 7 or 8 years now.
No kidding.
Are we all good? I think after all these, we've had quite the.
I had one piece that I have, had to repair. The bottom of it I had sitting down not off the ground, where snow and ice build up, and that affected and got cracks and pieces popping off at the bottom.
All right. Did we have any questions for Larry?
No, but once again, we can come back at the end of all of this if people
Can.
tune in with questions.
Thank you.
Oh, one
Charlotte
more.
has a question. Larry, you're back in the spotlight.
oh,
Charlotte
okay.
has a question.
I really like are those thumbprints, and like do you use a knife and slash it? Like in those
I have
black
used a
ones?
knife. Sometimes
Yeah.
I just use my thumbnail.
jeez.
Huh. Yeah, I just think
Like-
that they really add a lot.
This has a knife probably slashed there, but these are just thumbprints.
Huh.
If I do use a knife, then sometimes I'll come back and push a little bit
Yeah.
with a thumb
I
or a
just think they
finger.
add a whole lot to those pieces. I like the others too that are smooth, but I especially like those.
Yeah, they all have a function. That's an art function.
There we go.
All right.
That was fun.
Thank you, Larry.
All right, thank you, Larry. Barbara, it's your turn.
I'm going to resituate this here.
All right,
I'm gonna
Barbara,
come
when
into
you
your
start-
space.
I'm sorry. When you start with your,
Do you want to start with the oils?
I think I will.
Okay, I'm going to
Okay.
scooch closer to you. Hello.
Okay. Well, first, I want to thank Alan for inviting us. It's always fun to come over here and be part of things at Strecker Nelson West. I was an early artist. I showed with Julie Strecker, then with Jay and Barbara Nelson at Strecker Nelson, so I'm thrilled to be part of this third iteration of Strecker Nelson West.
Yay!
I am really intrigued with the fact that I sent Alan some images recently, and they
Yeah. Yeah. I was about to say.
that represented two completely different parts of my work. I would like to talk first about these two pieces, which are from my very recent Ship of Fools. We are living currently in a very interesting time. It's turbulent, it's chaotic, a lot of unknowns. We're dealing with immigration, terrorism, a pandemic, racial issues, political, well, probably one of the most politically interesting situations I have certainly seen in my lifetime. So I thought, you know, as an artist, I am a communicator. It is my job to look at what we're dealing with and to respond to it. Now, there are different ways that artists respond to things. Any creative will respond to things. And I chose to delve right in. There was a time when my political work many years ago, was a little more vague, a little less in your face. Well, I'm old now, and I decided that I had paid my dues of being subtle, and I was just going to put it out there. So the Ship of Fools, this one is called The Refutation.
I'm gonna get closer to this one. We'll do them go on specifically so people can really see it while you're talking about it. So,
The
all right, we're good.
refutation simply means the denial. It's very obvious that the ship is going down. The waters are rough and stormy. There are people abandoning ship. No one is picking them up. There are some survivors. There is a figure up here that shall remain nameless who is saying it's a
Oops.
hoax. This is Greta Thunberg,
Okay.
and she is in this lifeboat telling all of us about what's going to happen if we don't make some changes. Now, as is usually the case in my Ship of Fools pieces, no one is driving the ship, as it were. No one is steering the ship. There are never any oars to paddle the lifeboats. Things are pretty much unknown. No one seems to be taking control. In this piece, I have referenced another cultural influence, and that is Alice in Wonderland. This is the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. Now, red hats seem to be common these days with various sayings across them. And so this is the Mad Hatter. Here's the White Rabbit. You can fill in whichever character you feel is appropriate there. As usual, no one is driving the ship. The boat
jeez.
is...
Oh, turn it back around. Not me. Sorry. Sorry.
The boat is rusty, it's cracked. There are people who are trying to get in but are being ignored, and in this case, even being told to go away. There are people tooting their own horns. They're enjoying this lovely tea party despite what's going on around them. Here is Lady Liberty, looking a little worse for wear. The flag is definitely not in very good shape, and as you can see, the stars are missing. These are kind of nightmarish, surreal, in-your-face type works, but I don't feel in good conscience that I can ignore and pretend nothing is going on. We're speaking earlier about art being long-term. Well, these are a statement about what's going on today. When I first started doing my women series back in 1992, I was leery of using surreal imagery and dark colors, and I thought, is anyone going to like them? And then I thought, well, I don't care, I like them, and there's something that I need to say. And so all of this whole series about the Ship of Fools, all of my work about women, all of my work about in the Men series, all of my work when I put them together, all of these things make statements about our present day situation, and to my point, they will be probably still in existence many years from now, and if nothing else, people will know what I thought about the world at this time. I do a lot of research for my work. I am obviously influenced by people who paint oceans and ships. I'm fascinated with water. I'm fascinated with light. Light is obviously something that has informed my work for many years. Without light, you have no form. And so I have studied light quite a bit. I enjoy in my work the act of drawing. And to me, drawing is the underpinning for any painting. I don't use projectors to trace. I draw from scratch on everything because to me that is part of the work. To really understand the form, to really make it personal, I have to actually make all of the marks myself. Some of them aren't always correct. I remember Joan Foth said to me one time, you know, your work reminds me a little bit of Lucas Cranach. It's almost right, but not quite. And I thought, you know, I was complimented, of course, because I love the Northern Renaissance artists. But I also thought, you know, that's true, and it's okay, because that makes the work uniquely mine.
Yeah.
Since then, I've tried to study anatomy a little more closely, but I thought that was sort of an interesting turning point. I've had a number of professors over the years who have perhaps said one thing to me that has stuck with me. Ed Navone called me a colorist, which just floored me because it was my first year of painting. Jim Muntz said, how do you want the form to function? He sits right here when I draw or paint. How do I want that form to function? Thank you, Jim Muntz.
And I was thinking when I was looking at these, this one over here reminds me of the St. Cecilia series.
Where they're drowning in the boats.
They're drowning in the boats.
The trio, slash
trios.
duo.
Yes, trio
Yeah.
slash duo, yes. So I specifically thought of that earlier this evening when I'm looking at it going, wait a minute.
Jim's work has been an influence.
Yeah.
Another interesting influence was Lester Rayner. I have done artist residencies at his studio, and I sort of lived with his work for a week at a time, several times over. And I think that entered into my work rather strongly when I was doing the sort of clown-like figures.
Yes. And someone who certainly knows of what she speaks is saying that this reminds her of Jericho's Raft of the Medusa.
Yes, very much. Yes, I was channeling.
Jericho, okay.
Yes,
Wonderful.
very definitely. I am influenced by painters of that period.
Okay.
That very emotional.
Yes.
You know, Delacroix and Caravaggio, of course, was earlier. But the light and the dark, the shadows.
I was wondering when you were talking about the sea and the waves and all that, and who inspires you throughout the breadth of art history for the oceanic scenes?
Yes, very much so, all of the above. And yet, I also watch television, and you would be surprised how many images there are on television of people in boats and on the water. So here I am with my camera doing research.
Okay.
Because I want to see these people as today's citizens, you know, not Lady Liberty, but,
Leading the people, yes.
right,
Okay, right.
but contemporary citizens
Sure.
of the world, and their clothing and their body language.
Okay.
And so I don't want to be a painter who's lost in the past. I want to be a painter who takes that influence, but is definitely in her own time.
Yes, yes.
So, so we can move.
So we can
over.
move. I let
Some
Amy
lovely
handle
florals.
the camera. because-
Yes. You want to start? We'll just shift over here. Okay, I think we're good.
Actually, I'm gonna. So one of the things that I find so charming about Barbara is that we go from these deep political statements to just absolute beauty, and I have one of her orchids in my home, and it's just so calming and special. Okay, now you can go, Barbara.
Thank you, Alan, that for your kind words. Thank you. You know, even with everything going on in the world and all of the unknown factors and the worry and the, you know, how we're coping and with this whole new normal, if we ever find it, the world still contains beauty. It still contains good. And I also love to do that. And you know, sometimes you need a break from the intensity of work like that. Not that these don't require intensity in the drawing, you know, the careful rendering, making sure the wash and the color and everything all right. But these engage in a different way. And I teach watercolor privately. I have a few private students, and it's a wonderful excuse to keep up with my watercolor. Also, and let me back up. People ask me all the time, well, what's your favorite medium? Do you love oil or do you love watercolor? It's a very difficult question to answer because actually I love both, and for different reasons. I mean, each of them gives me something the other one doesn't. And it's nice to switch back and forth because they are total opposites. You have to think completely differently when you are doing this, because here you have the light and you go to the dark. With the oil, you have the dark and you go to the light. So, you know, you flip your thinking. But interestingly, the work grows off of each other. Things that I learn in my oil or in my watercolor will affect something I do in the other one. Also, design, color theory, the whole composition principles, all of that's exactly the same. It doesn't matter which medium you're using. Planning, I have to plan, I have to think. I cannot do art and not think. It's part of the whole process. And these are not really recent works, but they are works that I have always liked. And so I was tickled when Alan asked me to show them. I sent her the images and she said, "Oh, these are gorgeous, I want them." So that was great. But in the watercolor, I think especially, my whole engagement with light and with color theory and form is really much more evident maybe than in the darker pieces. Now, I also do florals in oil. I do landscapes in both oil and watercolor. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's what the hand. If I'm in my studio over in Noto, I work primarily in oil. But if I'm at home in my studio, you know, it's kind of a pain to have two studios because inevitably what you need is at the other one. But it's wonderful because I can turn off my thinking about one project and go into another project. Larry, would you bring me those two books, please? Two books.
Yeah, I guess. You want to talk about that one first?
Okay, I just wanted to, speaking of watercolor, I wanted to emphasize that one of the things that I have been doing in recent years is illustrating books. And I use watercolor to do that. And this book that I illustrated was written by my friend, Glendon Buckley, and we won a book award for that, which was
Cute.
exciting. This was our first one. Another thing that I do is book covers for authors, which I thoroughly enjoy doing. I love the whole collaborative process. And speaking of a collaboration, this is a collaboration I did with poet Dennis Etzel Jr. He was going on a sabbatical, and he invited me to be part of his sabbatical project, which was an honor. And his poetry and my visual images are in our book. We had an exhibition, and we are planning another exhibition at the Mulvane Art Museum sometime in 2021.
All right.
I only bring all of this up. I'm not trying to toot my horn here, but I wanted to talk about just briefly how an artist can be part of the community in many, many ways. You know, not just sitting in the studio painting, but doing other projects and being involved in things that keep the arts out there. And in this time that we're living in right now, the arts are extremely important. So I think that takes care of me. Does anyone have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions?
Type
Alrighty,
them
all right,
in.
let's
I'm supposed
see.
to tell you from Dave Woolard that you're awesome.
Yes, yes,
something
that was the comment on your ship. I keep wanting to say ships of fools, but ship of fools. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ship of Fools
But there's a series.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's a whole series.
it's a whole series. Larry has a
Larry
question.
has a question.
Apparently, you haven't answered all of his questions over the years.
Apparently not.
How long have you been married?
34 years.
34 years. He still doesn't get
Not a
it.
question, but would you comment on how we keep our separate spaces because of how we differ in our work attitudes and what we listen to?
So the question was, I don't know if the mic picked up, Larry. We are still having some mic issues, which we're going to correct before the next one. Larry asked, how do two artists who are married and obviously staying at home keep their spaces separate and musical tastes? Was that your question? What was, you said you have two different,
How we don't interfere with each other.
don't interfere with each other.
Okay, that's a wonderful question, and we have used this question many times in our Dog and Pony show to explain how we get along. Larry has a work ethic of noise and music and mess. And
Wow, that sounds just like Kevin.
yes, this has been amazing. Out of these things comes marvelous work. I love his work. I think if we had not respected each other as artists, had not really enjoyed each other's work, we probably wouldn't have gotten married. I, on the other hand, have a completely different working method. Total quiet. Absolutely. I won't say I'm not a little bit messy. That would be, I think, a little bit stretching the truth.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
However, I no music, nothing. I must
No.
have total. Thank you. I must have total quiet. And so we shared a studio right after we were married. And it was the first time I had ever shared a studio. Now, he probably had as a potter,
Sure.
but as a painter, only in college had I shared a studio.
And all those days, yeah.
But I had worked solo for years. So this was different. When we moved to where we are now, we were still kind of sharing the studio space. Because the other part of the basement was the TV room. So we were in only half of the basement. Loud music happened, and I could not stand that.
And this was pre-noise canceling headphones. Yeah.
So I suggested and purchased a set of headphones.
Oh, okay.
Presented them to himself.
Oh, for him. Yes.
him.
Yes.
I thought he can listen to his music. Everything will be quiet. It'll be wonderful. There was only one little detail that I had not considered. He sang along. Now, my husband can sort of sing, but without the musical accompaniment, it lacked something. So anyway, we have.
Well, that's why he's a potter and a ceramicist and not a singer.
That's right. He has other talents. But I tell you what, the cross-pollination of our work has been, I think, good for both of us.
Sure.
He sort of, in a way, gave me permission to loosen up from where I was back in the mid-'80s. He taught me to let go, to make a schlick of paint here or there. Of course, I don't do much of that. But anyway.
But you have permission
I
to,
have permission
Yes.
should I want to.
if you want to.
And I think that I have influenced him a little bit because when we married, his work was brightly colored, beautiful work, every color in the rainbow. Now
we're
also
black, brown.
the crow and the
beautiful.
raven
Well.
may have sort of sneaked into his work.
Oh, the answer is corvid. They're both corvids.
They're corvids.
Yes, they are corvids.
Grackles and
Oh, corvids. Oh, the birds. The birds.
Well, and another thing that influenced my color palette of the day, another thing that influenced my color palette now is that for the last over 20 years I've been working on Holocaust works.
Well, that.
And there went the bright light cheerful colors.
Sure.
So, and also, when we're talking about music, I have a very eclectic music collection. Ranges from all the way from Bob Dylan to the Box. And my favorite music is still the Baroque classical period.
Baroque classical, wow. Okay.
I got into listening to a lot of the heavy rock and plus things like Bob Dylan because I was working not during prime time of my day. I was still fully employed. I needed something that punched me up.
Okay. And music can do that. That's the symbiosis between all the different types of art that are so important in our lives. Yes.
You
So,
wanna step in there. And you should give words in
yes,
front of the camera.
I
instead of
should give
behind.
words in front of the camera. Oh, I don't like being in front of the camera. Although Charlotte says my top goes.
Well,
right
you.
with
How about you all?
All right,
You want to stand
Charlotte, get
together?
back in here. Charlotte, we're taking the mask off. Very briefly, we will be here for less than a minute, so be good. And I am so blessed to have these wonderful people in my life. And thank you, Charlotte. And I'm so grateful that you have all joined us. And if you're joining us later, thank you for tuning in. And of course, check us out on snwgallery.com. And we are here for you. We want you to stay safe, healthy. We want the best for everyone, including beautiful art. So if you decided that your walls need a little help, we're here for you. So, thank you, Larry and Barbara and Charlotte, for being here with us this evening. Thank you, Amy, for the video. And thank you, Mary, for photo.
Just around the corner.
What? Vanna White. She was Vanna White.
She did. She did the Vanna White.
Vanna White. And I'm so grateful for the wonderful team I have here. And for my husband, who has brought out the best in me, I like to think.
Yeah.
I'm still working on getting the best out of him. Anyway, thank you. We will see you next time. We have another artist reception on the 21st of August with Lisa Grossman, Sue Godwin, and Nancy T. That'll be a great one. And we hope you'll keep following us on, tune in and keep following us on Facebook. All right. Thank you all.
All right. Yay!
Somebody said you were her hero. Who was that?
Hero? I don't remember.
Oh, it was
I
just
can't
a
go
little
back.
bit.
You could probably find it.
Ah!
If you look afterwards.
Yeah, afterwards.
We'll finish. We'll wrap this up
Barbara
now.
is my hero.
Oh.
That's what it says.
Kathleen Bergman. Thank you, Kathleen.
Yes, thank you, Kathleen.
Kathleen.